I am having a fun Friday. The videos that I'm making today will come out next Tuesday and next Friday. I've already had one Friday fail. Let's hope I don't have two. This recipe is one that I've always wanted to try. So today is the day I'm experimenting and we will see what happens. Thanks for joining me today on Susan's Cozy Kitchen. Today I'm making Philly cheesesteak stuffed peppers. First thing that I need to do for making my stuffed peppers is to prepare the peppers to stuff. I'm going to cut it in half, I'm going to pull out the veins and the seeds, and then I'm going to put them in here and I'm going to bake them for 15 minutes so that they have a head start on getting cooked, and then I'll put the stuffing in there and then finish cooking everything together. Here we go, let's get started cutting these peppers. And another thing that I'm doing is I'm leaving the top on there because if I cut that out, then my filling is going to spill out the end. So we'll just be careful when we eat it not to eat the stem end. Around the stem, if it is difficult, you can use a small knife and cut through that area so that you can remove everything. Be very careful. Would probably be a good idea if I put it back down on the cutting board so that it doesn't slice through the pepper and into my hand. And this stem does not want to come out. Okay, let's just cut on through some more. Okay. To make cleanup easier, I'm going to put some parchment paper down in the bottom of my pan. Oh, there you go. That was the last of the parchment paper and it's just enough. So I will tuck peppers in there and try to get as much of the vein out of there as you can because it's just taking up room. Rinse them out so you get all the seeds and then in there they go. I've cut 4 peppers in half, removed the seeds and the veins from all of them, rinsed them out, and I now have them all inside here and ready to go into the oven. The oven is at 375 and I'm going to pop these in for about 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, so that's the first part. Now it's time for some onion. This is a sweet yellow onion. Now I have a New York strip steak. Time to cut this. Now I did have this in the freezer. It's partially frozen just to make it easier to cut. First thing I'm going to do is to trim the fat around the edges. Time to start cutting this. I'm going to try to slice this as thin as I can possibly do it. Okay, so there's all the beef cut into strips as thin as I can possibly get it. The peppers look great. They have partially cooked. I have my cast iron getting hot so that we can start with the filling for the peppers. I'm going to put some butter in here to melt. Okay, so here's the butter. It's melted and starting to brown just a little bit. It's smoking, so it's nice and hot, which is what we want to get a good sear on the steak. And I've not put any seasoning on the steak, so I'm going to pop over here and see what I have in my cabinet. So I have some Adam's Reserve steak au poivre. I'm going to sprinkle that over. That was not quite a teaspoon of seasoning. Just doing a quick browning of the meat. And the steak is almost done. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it out and pop it into this bowl. So, okay. Now in the same pan with the pan juices from the steak, I have 8 ounces of sliced mushrooms, and I'm going to put half an onion that I chopped earlier. And now I'm going to cook these together. And just so that they have some flavoring, I'm going to also add some of this. Yikes. Okay, a lot of seasoning just went in there. Too bad, so sad, nothing I can do about it. These are going to be well seasoned. I probably ended up with a tablespoon of seasoning in here. It's getting really dry in there, so I'm going to get a little bit more butter and add in. So it's just a nice pat of butter, probably a teaspoon. Let that start melting. I'm going to cook the onions and the mushrooms until they're nice and tender. They've softened. The onion's almost translucent. I really want to get these close to done. Okay, the onions are almost translucent. The mushrooms have cooked really nicely, so I'm going to add the steak back in along with any juices. And I'm going to mix all of this together now and let this cook together for just a bit. And for seasoning your steak and then your mushrooms and onions, you can use any of your favorite spices that you like, especially for your steaks. Use the one that is your favorite. You don't have to go buy a new spice for seasoning the steak. Just use the one that you like and the one that you already have. Tasting this, I just feel like it needs a little something. I'm gonna grab my Worcestershire sauce and just sprinkle a little bit of that in here. And I'm not going to put a lot, just a little. If you can't tell, I'm just sort of making this up, doing what seems right, and I'm hoping that it turns out tasty. Now let me grab a piece. That had more flavor to it, so I'm much happier with that. Now I'm going to turn the temperature down really low, and I'm going to add just a little bit of Italian blend cheese, and I'm going to sprinkle that over it to get some cheese into the steak. That was maybe a quarter of a cup of cheese. It was not a lot, but I wanted there to be a little cheesiness to the filling. I've turned this off now so that we can start stuffing the peppers. I'm making sure to get steak and mushrooms into all of them. I will just continue spooning these in until I get them all filled. Okay, these are all filled with the steak mixture now. Next, I'm going to put provolone cheese on top of each of them. These are not huge peppers, so I'm only going to put half a slice of provolone on each one, and that's going to cover the top of it very nicely without being too much. I always say I'm part rat, but sometimes less is more. And in my opinion, this is one of those times. Now that we have everything covered with cheese, it's time to put it back in the oven. Got the oven on at 375, and I'll probably have these in there for maybe 10-15 minutes. I just want everything to get a chance to get nice and hot and for the cheese to melt and maybe lightly brown. Okay, so 15 minutes was the perfect amount of time. The peppers had just started to lightly brown on top. The cheese is melted down in there perfectly. I did pull them out of the oven and pop them under the broiler for just a minute or two, just to get a little bit more color on top. So this is what they look like now. Let's see how these turned out. It's a piece of steak. The cheese looks fantastic. Here's a mushroom. All right. Okay, honesty time. It was good. It wasn't great, but it was good. It needs a little bit more cheese, so I have time to sprinkle a little bit more cheese, pop it back in the oven for a few minutes, let the cheese melt into it, and finish it off just perfectly. The full recipe will be in the description box below, along with links to my social media, different products that I've used in today's video. Please check it out. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure and give it a big thumbs up. If you've not already, please subscribe. And while you're there, ring the notification bell so that you find out every time I upload a new video to YouTube. Thanks for watching. God bless.